Welcome back to this episode of Love and Knowledge. I'm your host, Mitchell Prettyman, and welcome. It's been over a year since I spoke to y'all last. It's been a long time. I've had many crazy adventures. I went to Europe for almost 2 years, it seems like, because I met a girl. We talked for 9 months, and then I went out there, and I was out there for 6 in England. We got pregnant, brought her back here, we got married, went out there to have our baby in the Kentish countryside, and that was awesome. And had little Miss Maya, and she's just been such a joy in my life. Really, it was a story of getting the family back together. Well, not back together, but keeping the family together. Because we're in Europe. Europe's only got certain visa term lengths. And I had to figure out how on my savings, because you can't work over there without a work permit, how to bounce around and live life until we could get back to the U.S. and get my wife a green card. Because getting baby her certificate report of birth abroad was easy enough. But yeah, this process has changed me, as an individual. I'm now a father. I'm a husband. Traveled certain places in Europe, England, Germany, Spain. We spent 3 months in Spain. Afterward, used our whole Schengen allotment, which is 3 months. Be prepared to leave the day before, because they do count. They do count that last 90th day against you. So it's like leave on the 89th day. It's really developed me spiritually. It's like going through so much strife and stress and going through the American immigration process. As an American, bringing your wife over, it's like that is no mean feat. And it's really given me a lot of respect for everything that immigrants go through, because you're trying to keep the family together, you're trying to build a new life. You're doing that, which is a very energy intensive process, very spiritually, emotionally, financially, materially intensive process. And at the same time, you're trying to enjoy life, trying to keep your connection to spirit strong so that you don't collapse under the strain. All told, hiring a good lawyer and doing all of the document fees, it's like that's between $5,000 and $15,000, sometimes even more. That's a whole car to just get the green card. You know what I'm saying? We were able to do that. We were blessed in so many different ways, because at the same time, going through a process where you're trying to remain focused on your purpose, what you do. It's like, for me, it's like using my voice, my voice as an instrument, using my voice and my words to affect change, create impact. It's something that I do very well. Something that I love to do. And when you're overseas, you can't be doing things that could be construed as work. And so I was forced to turn inward for my sense of purpose and turn to my new family and just throw myself into that. When you become a parent, it really changes how you look at things. You go from being the star in the show, in your own show, to being the director who is now behind the scenes and is running the show, but you're not getting the accolades. You're not playing the part that gets seen. You're creating the atmosphere, the structure of the environment for somebody else to be seen. It's a very selfless act. And in today's culture, you go from such a sense of this is all about me, I want things with immediacy for me, to really doing just the opposite and giving all of your time, sacrificing your time, you know, working when you have to work. Then when you get home from work, you're coming home and you're immediately needed and desired and wanted in your new little baby's life, and your wife's like, I need you to be present now. And you're like, present? I have been present all day. I just need to unwind, relax, do something just for me. And that time goes away, and I felt that the biggest thing that helped me transition from the one mindset to this is realizing that this is something that I chose. When you say free time, a lot of people are like, oh, kids will take away from your free time. Unless you shift your perspective, again, your most powerful weapon, the ability to shift how you see things. To shift your perspective to say, this is what I chose. And that is what brings me joy. It's like seeing this little being's face light up every time you walk into the room. Every time you interact with them, it's enriching their experience, their life. You're creating the foundation for how they will experience this world. And to recognize that is intensely important to upkeeping your fortitude throughout this process. Going through this, jumping from country to country, not having a permanent home for almost 2 years now, has really taken its toll. But this is what allows me to get by. That and getting in tune with my spirit, the essence of my being, the motive force of all my actions. That inner structure has been enriched by this process because it gets you in touch with what your relation is to all of this. Because when we look at it in an egocentric way, like this is about me, what can the world do for me? When you get into this kind of rhythm in life, it you feel severely marginalized. But when you realize that we all live for each other, and it is how much you can give to others that determines how much you receive back, that in and of itself allows you to give without the expectation of receiving. And when we are able to do that, to just give freely, in my experience, I receive the most. And it always comes in the most unexpected ways. It really speaks to the law of conservation for me. It's very interesting because it's being a dad, transitioning to being a father, is like, it's almost like going from being a queen in chess to a king. You go from being the most mobile piece, the most dangerous piece on the board as a bachelor. You're able to go and do things like run to all ends of the planet at your own whim and will. And you're like cutting tip of the spear. And then you go to being a king. It's like your range diminishes by 90%, but you instantly become more important because everything's depending on you to act strategically with regard to the rest of your pieces on the board. And that responsibility It's like I had that the other day. I'm driving along, have my family in the car. This guy comes up behind me going like 100 miles an hour, like flashing his brights. We're in the HOV lane, not the fast lane, the HOV lane. And he is just acting a fool, being crazy behind me. I could have stepped on the gas, just gassed it to 100, been racing this guy. He comes up beside me, flipping me off, all this stuff. And I could have reacted. I could have showed him dominance. I could have played that game. But I have my wife in the car. I have my child in the car. Engaging in a confrontation would have been, in chess, the queenly thing to do. In terms of action, you're going out and you're the most dangerous piece on the board. But instead, I just took my foot off the pedal, slowed down enough to where he comes around, does his little hurrah, where he's flipping me off and everything, and then just let him pass. Blow him a kiss and move it along, buddy. I got more important things to do. I got responsibilities to look after that you do not understand anything about. And to me, that Spartan reserve is real dominance, because it's mastery over yourself. It's not living in that emotionally reactive state. That is something that you learn as a father. You have to maintain your continuity, your constitution. You have to not put yourself in overtly dangerous situations so that you can be the director and maintain that productivity that brings your family everything that they need. Because at the end of the day, that dude's going to forget this. I'm going to forget this. But if I were to engage in that and get hurt, or if my family were to get hurt, that would be remembered for lifetimes. And I say that because, say, one of us got hurt, could end the bloodline, end an entire chain of events that could have happened. Lives that would have happened, would have been touched, would never know the presence of my gene line, my daughter's spirit, my wife's spirit. And that, to me, is the most important thing. Now, before you live for the moment, you live for the adrenaline, you live for that heightened sense of life that gets you close to death. It's almost like smoking cigarettes. I smoked for 10 years, and my wife hit me with it, because I was just contemplating it, because I've quit since. And my wife hit me with this the other day. She had a dream, and in the dream she had an architect come to her and was teaching her. And she said something like, the cigarette is something that gets you closer to death, to the feeling of death, that release of death. And that, in essence, is what you're chasing, that relief that you feel in death, however momentarily, because in my purview, energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It simply transforms and moves on. Being that existence is confined to the singularity of existence, because there's existence and there is nothing else. It's there. And when time is suspended between all these moments, it's like you have structures. It's like consciousness, the awareness of things is what produces the motion. It's you moving over things that permanently exist, in my mind, not those things actually moving themselves. You're seeing frames of something that already exists, the thing that we call existence. It's all already done in its infiniteness, because whenever you explain that to somebody, they can get a little nihilistic, because if everything's already done, then there's nothing else. It's like you can look at this thing in so many different, myriad, infinite ways that you will never see it all from a limited perspective. Yeah, you reach the God mind, you can do it, but the God mind is a very important function. When I say God mind, being in touch with all things simultaneously, all at once, being able to see it all. But I digress, because whenever you think about the familial relation of things, it really brings you into a spiritual, I don't know, it brings you into a spiritual cycle, a spiritual gravity, gravitas, a centered alignment that allows the spirit to flow through you, because every day you wake up and you are not assaulted, but what's assaulted in a good way, where it is just an avalanche of love hitting you from the moment you wake up. My little girl wakes me up with a smile on her. Well, maybe not always a smile, but she always wakes me up with energy. Most days it's a smile. Sometimes she wakes up and her hair's all tasseled and she's just like, meh. But this is how I feel, Daddy. What are we doing today? And it invigorates me. Like, I don't know, what are we doing today? Why do you feel this way? It's such a spiritual thing, because they are mostly spirit. They got no or very little programming. They're just living in the moment. They're living, this is how I feel. This is the motive force that's driving me today. And that's just it. And when it's done, it's done. I don't sit there and dwell on it. And it teaches you as a parent to relive life, to reevaluate. Because a lot of times it's like you think that, oh, it's my job to teach them how to live. But they're also teaching you. There's always an exchange of energy. That exchange is sacred in that you get to touch the source of all things just by being in their presence. Children are one of the greatest gifts of life, in that they give you a purity of energy and experience that allows you to remember who you used to be before all this happened. That purity of spirit comes back through you if you let it. Don't always just try to, oh, you got to do it this way. My daughter does this thing. She is extremely smart. And whenever we do our colors, I'll be like, what color's that one? And it's red. She knows that it's red. I know that she knows that it's red. But she'll look at me and she'll just be like, it's yellow. What? No, it's red. Like, what do you mean it's yellow? And she's like, it's yellow. I know that you think it's red, but I think it should be called yellow. And she will do that with all of the different colors and just test me and just see if I can play, see if I can accept that it's not always the way that you describe it. It's not always the way that you desire it to be, or just because you've been told it's that way doesn't mean it's that way. We could start a whole new thing where red just becomes yellow. That song hits me, and it was all yellow. It's all shades of yellow. That's how she sees the world. Yeah, it's all the same. You have all these distinctions for everything, but it's all the same, man. And I laugh at little things like that, where she just opens up my mind to this new way of thinking, this new way of being. It really got me in touch with this exchange that I was talking about, where I give her knowledge of how to navigate here, and she gives me knowledge of how to navigate in spirit. I brought it back to like the act of the sexual union where you're both giving energy to each other. That's a very real thing that we often overlook because it's seen as such a frivolous thing. It's like I used to see it as a frivolous thing. Well, not so much frivolous, but you don't think about it that way. You hear online, videos where people, oh, my body counts this, my body counts that. It's like body count. It's reduced to such a material thing. Why is something that exchanges energy in a spiritual, material, emotional, and mental way, you're combining on all these different levels, and yet you're not acknowledging that? Because when you cross the Rubicon and become a parent, you realize your combination, your union with your partner is what creates an entirely new instance of life, this little engine of creation and destruction that will shape reality. And we're running around here putting our things in other people's places willy-nilly and not thinking about what we're doing, the energy that we're taking on, the energy that we could possibly create. Because being a parent, it's very energy intensive. Like, I am not joking when I say that I have never been more tired in my life. Never more fulfilled, but also never more tired. And I've done some crazy things, burnt the candle at both ends. School, work, partying, living, like that whole shebang. But when you become a parent, you are dealing with somebody that has infinitely more energy than you, and and wants to go from the moment you wake up till the moment you fall asleep. So it's something that I can say with impunity that you should really look into and care for. I had an epiphany, and I was like, I don't think married people, because there's the whole joke, once you get married, you have less sex. It's like, yes, because you are doing so much from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. And that little wants your attention so bad, also because they're like, no, I'm the baby. I don't need another baby right now. So you get off of her, that kind of thing. As a parent, you understand completely what you're getting into now. When you have sex, when you exchange that energy, you put that on the altar and it recombines with itself and creates this pathway into the material from the spiritual for a spirit to inhabit. You are opening up a can of blessings and whoop ass that was hitherto undreamt of in your single life. When you're just messing around before, you don't understand what you're doing. You don't understand what you're getting into. I think as a part of schooling that older children should just be put in a class where they're babysitting a child all day so that they can feel and see everything that goes on with that. You want to talk about birth control and all this stuff? Nah, don't do that. You got a whole class for a whole year, and your whole job is to keep that little being alive. It would be daycare and sex ed and birth control all in one. Because today's birth control sucks anyways. You're pumping yourself full of all sorts of chemicals, messing yourself up, causing infertility, the whole shebang. When you mess with hormones like that, it's not good for anybody. like especially the woman. You need to we need to get back to a more natural way of doing things and recognize that in that natural way of doing things there is great power. Because these days where like young men and women are exposed to so many different sources of sexualization, and that sexualization, that form of it, is designed to milk them of their energy. It's like sexual life force is a real thing. When a man masturbates and lets go, his testosterone drops, his energy levels drop, his drive drops, ambition drops. And it takes 4 days for your testosterone to go back up to the level that it should be at. On top of all of the other endocrine, like disrupting nonsense that we have to deal with, this is a very immediate thing because you're spending all of this energy, you're spending your ambition, you're trading it for an immensely small hit of dopamine in exchange. You're taking all of this energy that could be used for your creativity, that could be used for your accomplishment, and you're just, what does Barbosa say? Frittering, like, is that the word that he uses? On drink and food and pleasurable company, like about that line. But you're giving it away for nothing in exchange. Yeah, it feels good in the moment, but you're now weakened, and you're doing it not even for a woman, but for porn on a screen, for an image that exists in your mind. Not only that, it takes away from the presentism and the sacredness of actually being with somebody. When you truly tap into your ambition and your purpose and your drive, women will naturally flock to you. That is attractive. That is something that is worth being with and having that moment. When you spend it on something that isn't real, you find that you are hollow inside. You have no drive to do anything, and you have nobody to share that moment with. You're basically screaming into the void. You're trying to communicate with the inanimate instead of connecting with ourself, our greater self, the other people here. We have to shift our perspective. The greater self is everybody else around us. I think that's one of the biggest perspective shifts that needs to happen, is you are not just confined to this body. You are everything in existence. Existence is a singularity. It's intrinsically bound to itself. And despite the perceived divisions and separations, it always comes back to itself, just like you do. You will come back to yourself. And I think that is what we are doing yet again here on earth. You're coming from the pure place of spirit, just like a child. And you're coming down into a place that is completely, seemingly separated. My fingers and my toes end here, and I can control them, but I can't control this. Because you've forgotten that there are other parts of yourself that are in charge of controlling the other things to create this giant facade. And we're doing this in part to determine, to see if we can remember that this is all one. There's a reason why love is the most powerful force, because it connects everything. Everything sings when it's connected. It moves in a more organized way. The synchronicities are greater. The exchanges are greater. The understanding, the love, the knowledge that you have is greater. And children, having kids really shows you that because they're the fruit of your loins. That's you. The reason why you love them so much is that is half you and half someone else that you also love. This is also why it's very important to choose your partner, not just to frivolously get with people. Yeah, it was great at the time, but if you're really going to have a kid, if you're really going to combine the energy of existence together in a new nodal point, do you really want to do it with somebody you barely know? You don't know their past, you don't know their history, their traumas, their successes, what they've been through, what they've done, who they are when they're put under stress. That's a big one. It's like having kids is stressful. Let me tell you, being in a different country, having to go through the immigration process has been one of the most stressful things in my life. And it really brings you to your knees sometimes when you're trying to make all the ends meet and maintain a loving composure. If we just get with somebody that can't handle that, and we just give our sacred energy to them and theirs to us and create this, what happens if something comes about? It's very important that we get back in touch with how sacred this act is. Like there's more energy to be had in utilizing your spiritual, sexual, creative essence versus just letting it go to the wayside, into the wind, into places that it really shouldn't be, into people that it really shouldn't be. And we as a society have to get in touch with this. The society shifts between the conservative and the liberal, and I'm not talking politics. I'm talking fully sexually like free, just giving it out there, free love and all that stuff, versus focused into one. All of your energy focused from one into the myriad. It's like the one and the all. There's a variance, there's a balance between the two, like a breath. Not to say that one is better than the other, but there is a place and a time for these things. If you have completely breathed out all the way, to breathe out more is death. You need to breathe back in. You need to come back. And over the last couple of decades, at least in America, I can't speak for the rest of the world, we have gone off the deep end. We have really pushed the gauntlet. And we're starting to see the consequences of going any farther. There's been an attack on family. There's been an attack on the strength that family brings, the stability that it brings to the new generations. Having fun is all well and good, but we need to come back to ourselves in that we need to understand that focusing our attention on our work, on our purpose, on our understanding, on the spiritual development, on the psychic development, meaning the connective element between consciousness that allows us to empathize, to see how the other parts of ourselves are viewing reality so that we can have greater understanding, so that we can have greater knowledge, so that we can do more crazy and awesome things. It's like we need to come back to that. We need to come back to giving your energy to one person. This whole lack of loyalty narrative needs to change. Because if we can't trust each other in society, then what is it worth? Society will break down like in ancient Rome. Near the end of Rome, it got so debauched, so muddied energetically that eventually it fell apart because the relationships didn't mean anything anymore. And that is something that we must stop. Our money, our power structures, it's the same as Rome. And if we do not come back to ourselves, we will fall apart. The greed in men's souls, men and women's souls, has gotten to a tipping point. There are those in our society that have become so detached from others through the aggregation of the material that they have become a cancer unto themselves and society. When you become this detached and you think of yourself as superior or other and in no way connected to those that stand with you on this plane, you will turn to the material for comfort. But the material is finite, it's consumable. And in turn, you will be consumed. Just like a cancer, you start taking in all of the resources and you do not share them with the rest because you cannot connect to the rest. And ultimately, the entire organism dies. You've lost the plot. And you will turn to self-destructive ends. You will try to destroy the society, and we're seeing that right now. You got men that can handle billion-dollar plus portfolios running the government. And at the same time, they can't balance a budget. They overspend the tune of $30+ trillion. And call it happenstance when the system fails. Because what's really happening here is these men, because of their lack of connection, are undermining everything around them. Nothing matters. You've gamed the system so that you have more than you need. Everything's at your beck and call. Nothing has value. And so you undermine everything around you almost as a fail-safe to break everything down to its component parts, to a simpler version of itself, so that you can, in some way, achieve connection. Perhaps this is in their heart of hearts, not an active thought. Perhaps to them it's about power and control, because they don't trust reality. Again, back to that societal fundamental of needing that trust. When we let ourselves get that far into it, when you can just buy anyone you want, basically. Take whatever you want. What is it all really worth? When we do this, when we engage in this, that fundamental connective force in human society, the family unit, gets undermined by people that are out of control or that cannot stand to be or feel out of control because they do not understand their relation to the rest of us. A completely self-created, self-sustained experience whose heart is love, whose purpose is connection and understanding of the ultimate self. Granted, what they're going through, what we all go through is a part of this, but that's why awareness and ultimately balance is important during this process. It is up to all of us to personally become aware of this element of ourselves before it activates the failsafe and consumes everything that we've built here. Having a family and having moments to just sit and think and do and meditate are becoming scarce. We're putting so much strain on ourselves now that to touch the spiritual is a luxury due to the importance placed on material things. This is a symptom of a disease contracted in the pursuit of finding out who we truly are. But there's this element inside us that is aware of it, that sees it, that experiences it from the other end. And it is our duty on a case-by-case basis to make ourselves and others aware of this and bring them and ourselves back to the fundamental love that binds this all together. If this is a cancer of society, then how does one beat it? We have to repair the damage done. We have to turn the signaling pathways back on. We have to tell the cell, this portion within ourself is diseased and it needs to be reabsorbed so that you can maintain proper functioning within the greater organism. Otherwise, there's only one outcome, and we will experience it over and over and over again, no matter how many people from that little 1% survive each cataclysm that arises from this behavior. Our evolution is at stake, and it is immediately tied to our ability to create loving family units that continue into the greater societal family. We are mammalian. We are a pack. We are a family. And we need to see each other as parts of a whole. There are reasons that we each go through what we're going through. And the more aware each one of us gets, the better this will be. More of a chance that we have of evolving and reaching that next level. And it comes through connection. We have to understand love and empathy to get to the next phase. I heard a quote once that said, human beings aren't ready to be psychic because they have too many secrets. If you loved yourself enough and you loved others enough to where you didn't need those secrets, what's to stop the thoughts from flowing? If that's our destiny, to visit those higher realms of being where we are more fully connected so that we can truly rise to the heights and plumb the depths that we all know is waiting just beyond the veil of our perceptions. Why aren't we doing it? What's holding us back? We need to unlock this fear. And in my quest to become a father, I have more fully understood this and realized that despite my past, because I'm no saint, I've definitely done all the things that I'm talking about. Dancing from relationship to relationship until I finally figured out that consolidating your energy is what really does make you happy, because it forges a connection that you can pour yourself into, and that person will pour back. Granted, life has its twists and turns and variances, and no two relationships are the same. But there's a power in this, and the more that we cultivate it as a team, the farther we're going to get. If we don't, we're going to follow Rome into the dust. We need to create something new. That's what this podcast is about. Talk about how to do it. What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? How do we hold on to the spirit innate in all of us? How do we tap it? How do we channel it so that we can use the knowledge inherent in existence, in the universe, in the quantum realm, and translate it into visual, audio signals, sensory inputs that we can format into reality? That's what we're going to be talking about here. And being a parent has renewed my commitment to this purpose. So join us next time on Love and Knowledge, and we'll talk about this a little bit more.